She wasn't supposed to look at me like that. Not that way, not with that pause between a smile and something else she didn't say. It started in the most ordinary place possible, a late evening, an empty cafe, the faint hum of rain tapping against the window. I was waiting for my order to go. She was sitting 2 tables away, reading something she wasn't really reading. I noticed the way her fingers rested on the cup, steady, deliberate, but her eyes flicked up every few minutes, never landing for long. When our gazes finally met, it wasn't dramatic. Just quiet. Familiar somehow. She looked away first. I remember thinking how composed she seemed, like she'd already decided who she was years ago and had no interest in explaining it. There was something about her that made the noise in my head go still. Not beauty exactly. Presence. The kind that pulls you in before you realize you're moving. I told myself not to stare. But she caught me anyway. "Are you waiting for someone?" she asked, her tone light, the kind of light that hides a dare underneath. "No," I said. "Just didn't expect to meet anyone interesting this late." Her smile didn't reach her eyes, but it stayed. "That's a risky line." "I didn't mean it as one." "Of course you didn't." Her voice softened on the last word, and I swear I felt it more than I heard it. She was older, clearly. Mid-40s, maybe. Her confidence wasn't rehearsed, it was lived in, shaped by time. The kind that makes you forget your own age for a second. She stirred her coffee slow. The spoon touched the cup with a soft clink. I noticed her hand, no ring. I told myself that didn't mean anything. When I finally got my order, I should have left. Instead, I found myself asking, "Do you mind if I sit?" Her brow lifted slightly, but she didn't say no. "You don't usually ask before doing something, do you?" she said, trying to be polite. Her eyes held mine. "That's a shame." The air between us felt heavier, but not uncomfortable. Just aware. The cafe around us dimmed, or maybe I just stopped noticing it. Her perfume was faint, something floral, with a trace of warmth that lingered when she leaned back. We didn't talk much. We didn't need to. Every silence carried its own kind of conversation, the kind that felt more honest than words. Her laugh came quiet and low, and once, when she reached across to take a napkin, her fingers brushed mine. Not by accident. Not entirely on purpose either. That small touch, it was nothing. But it left something behind. I looked down, pretending to focus on the cup between us. "You seem like someone who doesn't get surprised easily." "Maybe I don't," she said. "Maybe I just stopped showing it." Her eyes drifted over my face like she was trying to decide whether I was a mistake worth making. "Don't look at me like that," she murmured. "How am I looking at you? Like you're waiting for permission." I didn't know what to say, and maybe that was better. Because silence said it for me. The rain outside grew heavier, blurring the glass. She tilted her head toward it, then back at me, something soft but unreadable crossing her face. Then her phone buzzed. The sound broke the spell. She looked down at the screen, exhaled quietly, then stood up. "You should go," she said. "Before you stop pretending to be a gentleman." And before I could answer, she was gone, leaving behind the warmth of her coffee cup, still half full, and a question I couldn't stop hearing. What if I didn't want to pretend? I didn't expect to see her again, but a week later there she was. Same cafe. Same table. Same half-finished coffee. I stood at the door for a full minute before going in, pretending I hadn't already decided to. She looked up, and for the briefest moment, there was a flicker, recognition, maybe even something like relief, before she covered it with a polite smile. "You again," she said. "Me again," I replied. This time, she didn't ask if I was waiting for someone. She just gestured toward the empty chair across from her. "You might as well." It was different now, quieter, heavier. The small talk didn't come as easily. I noticed the faint tiredness around her eyes, the kind that comes from too many late nights alone. She looked like someone who'd been strong for too long. I asked softly, "Rough week?" She hesitated. "They're all the same." Then, after a pause, divorced people tend to measure time differently. I nodded, unsure if she wanted to talk about it. I didn't know. You weren't supposed to. She smiled faintly, then traced the rim of her cup with one finger. What about you? You look like someone who still believes things work out. Maybe I just haven't lived long enough to know better. Her laugh was quiet, real. That's what I envy about your age, all that certainty before it breaks. Something about the way she said breaks made my chest tighten. We sat in that soft, uncertain space, somewhere between flirtation and confession. The kind of silence where two people try not to say what they're both already thinking. When she leaned forward to reach for her bag, her shoulder brushed mine, light, but deliberate. Her perfume, warm and faintly floral, lingered in the air. I didn't move. Neither did she. She straightened slowly, as if nothing had happened, but her voice came out lower. You should be careful about who you sit with, you know. People talk. Do you care what they say? She met my eyes, steady, unreadable. I used to. There it was, that quiet, dangerous honesty that pulled me toward her more than any smile could. We talked until the cafe began closing. About small things, safe things, books, cities, the way rain always makes you feel a little nostalgic for nothing in particular. But beneath every word was the pulse of something we both pretended not to feel. When we stood to leave, I offered my hand out of habit. She took it, her fingers cool, soft, trembling slightly before they steadied. Still trying to be a gentleman? She asked. Trying, I said. Not sure I'm succeeding. Her gaze dropped to our joined hands. Then maybe stop trying so hard. For a second, either of us let go. Her thumb brushed over my knuckles, once, barely there, but it was enough to leave a mark that would last the whole night. Then she stepped back, smile fading into something more careful. Good night, she whispered. It wasn't a goodbye. Not yet. Just the promise of another line we weren't ready to stop crossing. It had been 2 weeks since the cafe, and I told myself I wasn't waiting for her. Then I saw her again, not in the same place, but by chance, or what I wanted to believe was chance. A quiet bookstore on a rainy afternoon. She stood near the poetry shelf, her fingers tracing spines like she was touching memories. Following me now? She said without looking up. Just bad luck, I said. She turned, smiled faintly. You don't look very unlucky. I stepped closer. Maybe not yet. There was a moment, small, ordinary, but electric. The space between us held more than words could. Her coat brushed against my sleeve as she moved past me, and I felt it, that same current from the cafe, stronger this time. She stopped at the counter, pretending to browse a display. You shouldn't keep showing up like this, she murmured. And yet here we are. Her lips parted, maybe to argue, maybe to agree. I never found out. Claire? A voice called out. A man in a dark coat walked in, older, confident, the kind of presence that fills a room without trying. He waved, smiling. Didn't expect to see you here. She stiffened slightly before turning. Mark. I was just leaving. I recognized her tone, polite, distant, the way people talk to someone who used to matter. His eyes flicked to me. Friend of yours? Before she could answer, I said, Just bumped into each other. Mark smiled at her, that knowing kind of smile. You always had a way of finding company, didn't you? I didn't understand what he meant, but she did. Her expression didn't change, but something behind it closed. When he finally left, she exhaled, a slow, tired sound. He's my ex-husband. I guessed. Good. Then you know why this. She gestured between us. Can happen. I wanted to say something clever, something to defuse the tension, but the words wouldn't come. Instead, I just stood there, watching her. She looked at me, her eyes soft but unsteady. You don't know what people can do with stories. Especially ones like ours. I don't care what they say. You will, she whispered. Eventually. Outside, thunder rolled, low and distant. When she turned to leave, I followed her to the door. She hesitated, her hand on the handle, the rain blurring the glass. You always this stubborn? She asked. Only when I'm right. That earned the smallest smile. She shook her head, but didn't open the door. For a long moment, we just stood there, the storm outside, the hush of the bookstore around us. Then she looked up at me, eyes dark and unreadable. I could feel her breath, warm, uneven, as she stepped closer, close enough that her shoulder brushed mine, close enough that one more heartbeat might have been enough to erase the space between us. She didn't move. Neither did I. Someone coughed from the back of the store, a reminder that the world still existed. We stepped apart at the same time, like it burned to stay that near. She laughed under her breath. See? The universe doesn't trust us either. But when she finally opened the door, she glanced back once, not to say goodbye, not even to smile, just to look, as if memorizing the moment she almost didn't resist. And that, somehow, felt worse than a kiss. The next time I saw her, she wasn't expecting me. She was standing outside the same cafe, coat pulled tight against the cold, hair damp from rain, her phone pressed to her ear. I caught just enough of her tone to know it wasn't a friendly call. When she noticed me, she ended it abruptly. You shouldn't be here, she said. You said that last time. And you didn't listen. I'm not great at taking hints. She exhaled, half frustrated, half relieved. You really don't know when to stop, do you? I don't think you want me to. That stopped her. The look she gave me, part warning, part something else, was enough to undo all the distance she'd built. Inside, the cafe was half empty, lights soft and gold. She sat across from me, silent at first. The rain hit the window like a metronome, steady and slow. I shouldn't keep seeing you, she said finally. Then why do you? Her eyes flicked up sharp, then softened. Because you make me forget how tired I am. There it was, a confession she hadn't meant to say. I leaned forward, elbows on the table. You ever think maybe that's not such a bad thing? You don't understand, she whispered. You're young enough to still believe people get away with wanting what they shouldn't. And you? I already learned the cost. For a moment neither of us spoke. The hum of the coffee machine, the faint scent of cinnamon and rain, it all blurred into the tension between us. She looked down, tracing the rim of her cup again, the same small motion I'd noticed the first night. Her fingers trembled, almost imperceptibly. I reached across the table, stopping her hand. Her skin was cool, soft, tense beneath my touch. She didn't pull away, just looked up at me with something raw in her eyes. Don't, she said, but her voice didn't sound sure. I can't help it. Her breath caught. You don't know what you're asking for. Maybe I do. A silence followed, thick enough to touch. When she finally stood, I followed her outside. The air was damp, the streetlight turning the rain into gold dust. She turned away, but I stepped closer, close enough that the warmth of her body cut through the chill. Tell me to stop, I said. Her eyes met mine, steady, defiant, trembling at the edges. You think I can? Her voice cracked on the last word. I reached up, slow, deliberate, and brushed a strand of wet hair from her face. My hand lingered at her jaw, her skin cold beneath my thumb. She leaned in, just barely. Her breath hitched when I spoke, my voice low near her ear. If you don't walk away right now. She closed her eyes, just for a second, a surrender, a plea, a heartbeat too long. Then a voice called from across the street, her name, clear and sharp in the rain. She froze. I stepped back. When she turned to face the sound, her expression was unreadable, a storm behind calm eyes. She whispered, almost to herself, We went too far already. Then she was gone again, leaving the rain to finish what we couldn't. I didn't see her for almost a month. I told myself I'd stopped looking, but every cafe, every street corner felt like waiting for something I couldn't name. Then, one evening, she texted. Just 5 words, we need to talk. Tonight. When I arrived, she was already there, leaning against her car, coat pulled tight, hair swept up like she hadn't planned to be seen. The streetlight caught the curve of her jaw, the glint of uncertainty in her eyes. You didn't have to come, she said. You asked me to. She nodded, arms folded across her chest like armor. You're right. I did. Something in her tone made me uneasy. I stepped closer, but she didn't move. Someone saw us that night, she said quietly. My stomach dropped. Who? Mark. Her ex-husband. He was across the street, she went on. He said he didn't mean to follow me, but you know how people make things sound innocent when they're not. I swallowed hard. What did he say? That I haven't changed. That I'm doing it again. Doing what? She looked at me, not angry, not even hurt. Just tired. Falling for someone I shouldn't. The silence between us stretched thin. Is that what this was? I asked quietly. A mistake? She hesitated, but only for a second too long. It wasn't supposed to be anything. Her words stung, even though I knew she was protecting herself more than me. I took a slow breath. You didn't lie to him, though. No, she said. But I lied to myself. I told myself I could handle it, the looks, the whispers, the way it would end. But you, she trailed off. Me? You make me forget I'm supposed to know better. I stepped closer again, close enough to feel the tension in her breath. Then stop pretending. Her hands tightened around her coat, knuckles white. You think it's that simple? I could lose everything, my reputation, my job, the little peace I still have. Then why did you call me tonight? Her answer came as barely a whisper. Because I wanted to see if I still could. The truth landed heavier than I expected. My pulse quickened, not from anger, but something deeper, more desperate. She reached up then, like she wanted to touch me but stopped midway, her fingers trembling in the air between us. I caught her hand gently, guiding it to rest against my chest. Her palm was cold, her heartbeat a fraction faster than mine. This is what scares you, I said. She looked up at me, eyes wide and glassy. No. This is what I can't stop. The wind picked up, tugging at her hair, and for a second, it felt like the whole world had narrowed to just this. Her breath against my neck, her pulse beneath my fingers, the space that begged to close. Then her phone buzzed again. The same name on the screen. Mark. She flinched like it burned. Without looking at it, she turned the phone off and slipped it into her bag. When she looked at me again, her voice was steady, resolved. I'm done running from this. And before I could ask what she meant, she stepped past me, close enough that her shoulder brushed mine, close enough that her scent followed as she whispered. Tomorrow night. My place. No more pretending. Then she walked away, leaving me standing there, heart racing, knowing the line between right and wrong had just disappeared. Her apartment was smaller than I imagined, warm light, half-read books on the table, a faint scent of rain and wine in the air. When she opened the door, she didn't say a word. She just looked at me like she'd already decided something, even if she didn't know what it was yet. I stepped inside. The sound of the door closing felt louder than it should have. For a moment neither of us spoke. She walked to the window, her reflection faint in the glass. You shouldn't have come, she said softly. You asked me to. That was before I remembered what happens next. What does happen next? She turned slowly, her expression caught between resolve and surrender. We stopped pretending we're just curious. The distance between us felt alive, charged, dangerous, waiting to break. I could hear my heartbeat in the quiet, could see the way her breathing quickened when I moved closer. You really think we can still stop? I asked. She didn't answer. Instead, she reached up, fingers brushing through her hair like she needed something to do with her hands. You don't understand, she murmured. I've spent years keeping everything in order, work, control, silence. You ruin that. I'm not trying to ruin anything. You already did. Her voice cracked on the last word, and before I could think, I was beside her, too close. My hand lifted on instinct, brushing a strand of hair from her face. She didn't pull away. Her skin was warm under my fingers. Her breath trembled when I whispered, Tell me you don't want this. She closed her eyes. You think that would help? The space between us disappeared for a moment. Not a kiss, not yet, but everything that wanted to be one. Her forehead rested lightly against mine. I could feel her pulse where our hands met, her fingers tightening slightly like she was trying to remember how to let go. This isn't just about age, she said. It's about what it means. To want something that scares you. It scares me too. She laughed, breathless, the sound breaking somewhere in her chest. Good. Then at least we're honest. Silence again, but this time, it wasn't avoidance. It was the weight of decision. I leaned in, voice barely above a whisper. So what do we do? Her eyes opened, glassy, steady. We stopped lying. And then, for the first time, she didn't resist. Her hand rose to my cheek, slow, deliberate. My breath caught, the world narrowing to that single touch. But instead of the kiss I thought would follow, she stepped back, one small, trembling step. Her eyes softened, not with rejection, but with understanding. You wanted me to choose, she said quietly. So I am. She reached for my hand, pressed it once, and let go. If we start this, she whispered, it won't just change tonight. It'll change everything. I nodded, even though it hurt. Maybe that's what it's supposed to do. For a long second, we just looked at each other, no hiding, no pretending, no safe distance left. Then she smiled, sad, beautiful, certain. I think you finally stopped trying to be a gentleman. And I smiled back, knowing she was right, because in that moment, I finally understood her. Not what she wanted. What she feared. The next morning came softer than I expected, pale light spilling through her window, the quiet hum of a city waking up outside. She was sitting on the couch, barefoot, a mug of coffee warming her hands. For a long moment, I just stood there, watching her, the way the light caught her hair, the small crease between her brows like she was thinking too hard again. You're awake, she said without turning. Didn't sleep much? Neither did I. Her tone wasn't distant anymore. Just tired in that peaceful way people sound when they've stopped running. I sat beside her, close enough that our shoulders brushed. She didn't move away. Last night, I started. Wasn't a mistake, she said, finishing for me. Then she smiled, small, real. You were waiting for me to say that, weren't you? Maybe, I said. Or maybe I just needed to hear it out loud. She took a slow sip of her coffee, eyes on the window. You know, I kept thinking this would ruin everything. That people would talk, that I'd lose control of something I've spent years protecting. And now? No, she said quietly. I think I care more about losing this than my reputation. That made me laugh, softly. You don't make it easy to stay calm, you know. She looked at me then, really looked, eyes warm, unguarded. You don't make it easy to stay lonely. I didn't know what to say to that, so I didn't say anything. Instead, I just reached over and took the mug from her hand, setting it aside. My hand lingered, fingertips brushing hers, steady and unsure all at once. Still trying to be a gentleman? She asked, teasing now. I shook my head. Just trying to be honest. She leaned closer, resting her forehead lightly against mine. The silence that followed wasn't awkward anymore. It was something else, something steady. You know, she whispered, I spent years convincing myself that wanting something at this age was foolish. And now? She smiled against my skin. Now I think maybe I was just waiting for someone who wouldn't be scared of me. I was terrified, I admitted. I know, she said softly. That's why I believed you. Her hand found mine, slow, certain, fingers weaving through with quiet finality. No drama, no hesitation. Just two people finally still. Outside, the rain had stopped. The world felt cleaner somehow, like it had been holding its breath too. She leaned back, eyes half closed. You realize this doesn't magically make things easier. I don't need easy, I said. I just need real. She laughed quietly, that same laugh from the cafe, the one that had started everything. Then maybe you're exactly what I needed to stop pretending. We sat like that, close, quiet, not needing to fill the air. Her head rested against my shoulder. My hand traced small circles along her palm. For once, there were no lines left to cross, no words left unsaid. Just warmth. Just us.